connectivity conservation is an emerging concept where we need to recognise that for conservation management there's all sorts of flows and movements and interactions, so we have to think about how all of those things contribute to conservation. I find it fascinating the way in which at any single point that you might study, there's all sorts of connections with other parts of the country through things like bird migration, flows of water, movement of air. The areas we study, the areas we work in are connected to many other parts. And it's when those connections are broken or when there's gaps and when land use changes so things aren't connected, that's when we can intervene and we can manage more effectively. And I think we need to think in terms of connections in space and connections in time. And connections in space is saying how can we reduce the gaps and reduce the isolation and increase the capacity for things to move and to be connected. And so we see all sorts of land management, adding corridors, protecting what's there already. And I see great importance with waterways and streams and riparian vegetation as natural connections in the landscape. So we can build and add spatial connections, but we also need to think about connections through time. The quality of the connections we make often depends upon how resources are available through time. And that might be things like changing nectar resources, it might be long-term things like plants growing and regenerating and providing canopy of trees, tree hollows and logs, or it might be disturbance processes like fire or other disturbances. So we need to think in the way we manage our connections, how they're going to change through time, and think and plan for now and for the future in 5 and 10 and 15 years. But connectivity conservation is something everybody can be involved in. We can all make a difference and we can all enhance the landscapes in which we live.